All right, so as promised, we're going to have a little session with Rory Z. He used to be my hypnosis instructor in London, and we'll just go live and have the nice conversation about what is hypnosis. So here we go.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, definitely. So, Rory, you were my one of my instructors in London. I studied hypnotherapy at your school with Kate, which is called HypnoTC, Hypnotherapy Training Company. And today we're going to talk a bit about hypnosis, about the facts, and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Would you like to open up and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, as you said, my name is Rory Z Fulcher. Some people call me Rory Z. I've been doing hypnosis for, about 12, 13 years now, off the top of my head. Started off kind of self-taught from books, just learning little bits here and there and practicing where I could. Then I took it further forwards and did some courses and further learning to a point where I felt I could go and work with the public, both in the context of therapy as hypnotherapy, but also in entertainment hypnosis as well, which is something that I have done for quite a long time too. And at the moment, like you say, I teach hypnotherapy in London with Dr. Kate Bevan-Marks for HypnoTC, the hypnotherapy training company, which you can see there on the t-shirt, as well as doing various kind of 1- and 2-day courses throughout the year. I have books and DVDs on the topic that are all available on Amazon, and that's kind of me, as a hypnosis trainer.
How did you start why did you actually go into hypnotherapy or hypnosis? I think you started with stage hypnosis or street hypnosis back in the day.
I mean, I started out initially because I used to like to read when I was a teenager, lots of fiction books, and I'd seen mentions of hypnosis all over the place. And I thought, well, I wonder if that's something that you can actually learn to do. So I thought, okay, well, I'll go to the nearest bookshop, because obviously there wasn't really Amazon or anything like that at that time. Right. So I went to the bookshop down the road and I was like, well, do you have any books on hypnosis? And they said, yeah, we have this one book, which thinking back, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was a fairly short book, and there wasn't that much information in there, but there was enough to get me started. And from that point, I kind of used hypnosis. I hypnotized myself. I came up with some suggestions to help myself stop smoking, and it worked. And I used to smoke 20 to 40 cigarettes a day, and I went from that to none using the power of hypnosis and suggestion, which that kind of convinced me that it was something that I could kind of get my teeth into. It did work. And like you say, I did start off early on with stage hypnosis, but I did actually start with hypnotherapy before that. However, it was something that I got into and changed quite quickly from doing hypnotherapy to doing stage hypnosis as well. I never gave up doing hypnotherapy. It's something that I've kind of always done since I learned, but I do like the entertainment side of things as well. So I did a 2-day course on how to do stage and entertainment hypnosis, and put a Google ad up and started getting hypnosis shows, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think we'll also have a different show about just dedicated to stage hypnosis, because that's a lot to cover. And I also want to mention that you teach stage hypnosis in London. So I think a lot of people will be interested to hear more about that. We'll leave that for another show shortly. Let's start with what is hypnosis? What is hypnotherapy? Is it safe? There are a lot of misconceptions. People are scared. They're kind of afraid. They think somebody will take control of their minds or take their wallet, or all kinds of different things. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
So, firstly, what is hypnosis? It's a labored point, and it's something that not every hypnotist and hypnotherapist actually agrees on as well, because hypnosis is a very subjective experience. It's something that we all experience in a slightly different way. So no two people experience hypnosis in the same way. Because all hypnosis fundamentally is self-hypnosis. It's something that we do inside our heads, and the hypnotist or hypnotherapist, the person doing the hypnosis, is just guiding you along. It's kind of like if you're in a car, you know, you're the driver as the hypnotherapy client, you're the driver, but the hypnotherapist is the map reader. So they're telling you where to go in order to get yourself into that state of hypnosis. And generally for most people, especially in the context of hypnotherapy, hypnosis tends to feel quite relaxing. Some people feel like they're just sat or laying down and they're listening to someone's voice. And it's just like they've got their eyes closed. Other people feel heavy, feel light, feel floaty, and feel drifty, that kind of thing. Some people, it's a little bit rarer, but some people kind of don't remember much of what went on during the hypnotherapy session. However, throughout the entire process, you as a client, as a hypnotherapy client, are always in control of what you will do within the hypnosis session. So if the hypnotherapist asks you to do something that you would think, okay, well, that's inappropriate, I don't think I want to do that, then you wouldn't. However, if it's something that you think, oh, yeah, well, I could give that a go, that seems fine, it's not going to harm me in any way, it's not something that I'm morally opposed to, then you'd probably do it. So you always have the choice as to whether you will accept or reject a suggestion, as well as you have the choice as to if you'll go into hypnosis or not. Some people don't want to go into hypnosis and they won't. You know, if I have a hypnotherapy client come along and they've been made to go to hypnotherapy to be, you know, to their wife or their husband wants them to stop smoking, right, then they don't want to do it, then it's totally not going to work. They won't engage, they won't go into hypnosis because it's all a self-hypnosis at the end of the day.
Right, so that's a really important thing to make a note. So every hypnosis is self-hypnosis, and you gave a really good example where the client is actually driving and he's aware. Although sometimes I actually have a lot of clients that kind of forget about, you know, what really happened, you know, all the suggestions, because they go into a deeper state of relaxation, and which is actually a good state to be in, because that means that the person is willing and able, and he wants to go through the process. Yeah. And so you said also that every client is in control 100% of the time.
Pretty much, yeah. If they don't want to do something, they won't do it. Yeah. No hypnotic power will make people do things that they don't want to do. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. If it did, I would probably again, right now I'd be on a beach somewhere.
Yeah,
money.
True. So in Israel, in I think it was '62, they built up. They had they started the like National Guild of Hypnotherapy, right? And in '84, after a couple of years, there was some incident where there was one woman that was, or a younger girl that she was in a show. It was like stage hypnosis done to her, and she, according to the press, and you know, the files are not really open to the public, but she went into, or she didn't come out of hypnosis. Have you ever heard about such a thing?
I've kind of heard about it, but the perception is different to the reality generally. And again, it all depends on that individual, because that woman, she may have had some specific reason that she wanted to remain in that state of hypnosis. And it's common. I've had it, well, I say it's common, it's not very common at all. But I've had it a couple of times on a stage hypnosis show where you have a whole group of people doing loads of fun stuff, and at the end you wake them all up, and one person doesn't wake up at the end straight away because they're enjoying being in that state so much that they just want to stay there, because being in hypnosis, like we said, generally feels really relaxing, really nice. So a lot of people, especially if they have a really stressful life, or there's something that they don't want to go back out and have to deal with, they'll think, okay, well, I'm just going to stay in hypnosis because it feels good. But again, it's all down to them. You know, it's nothing to do with a hypnotist keeping somebody in hypnosis, because that just doesn't work. But if someone wants to stay in a nice, relaxed, calm state, they're more than happy to, you know, they're more than able to be able to do that just by making themselves do it, thinking about it.
Right. But I mean, throughout the world, I mean, there are thousands of, or probably tens of thousands of hypnotherapists. It's totally not a common thing. It's, you know, it's something very out of the ordinary to happen to a person. And
Especially in hypnotherapy, yeah. I mean, on a stage, it's different. But when you're one-to-one with a hypnotherapist, that hypnotherapist there to look after you, to guide you through that experience. And I don't think that's ever happened in hypnotherapy, at least not for me. So you know, it's a very uncommon thing, and people just can't get stuck in hypnosis. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Another question, actually from the field of treatment with hypnosis. I've had many clients that have been, a lot of people come to hypnotherapists after they go to, like the witch doctor or some other song and dance, or, a psychiatrist, psychologist. And, in psychiatry, they give you drugs. All right, that's their field. But a psychologist, they might keep you on that, that chair for therapy for, a year or two. I've had clients that, they've been 6-7 years in therapy. And once they come and meet a hypnotist, then it's quite weird. I mean, for us, it's not, but we see that, they just accomplish their goal much faster.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I mean, it's not necessarily true all of the time,
right?
But as a rule, we tend to find that hypnotherapy is a lot quicker at making changes happen than a lot of other talking therapies and counseling, that kind of thing, just simply because we have different tools to utilize. We aren't, limited to one specific therapeutic approach. We come at it from all different angles using diverse aspects of very many different therapies, including psychology and psychotherapy and counseling and, NLP and loads of different things. As well as that, the aspect that helps the process along a lot faster, we think, is the actual hypnosis itself, which gets you out of your own way to some extent. So rather than sitting there in a therapy session consciously analyzing everything that the therapist is saying to you and thinking about what you're going to have to say back and
right.
Relating that information to what you believe is true in your head from past experiences of what you think is going to happen, all of that stuff can be consciously going through your head, which it makes it a longer, more drawn out process, and it can be a lot more critical in the way that you deal with it as a client. Whereas within hypnosis, you don't tend to think about things as critically because you're simply sat using your imagination. You're being guided along rather than having to think, okay, well, no, that doesn't make sense, and I'm going to argue against that, and all that kind of stuff, which is why hypnotherapy tends to generally take a shorter amount of time than a lot of other therapies. And though it's not necessarily a great money model for us as hypnotherapists, because we don't
right.
make coming back all the time,
right.
It's good because we can help people achieve changes quite quickly.
Right. And I mean, if you take it to like neuroplasticity or the plasticity of the mind, the brain, I mean, we have this idea where the mind or the brain is like a field, right? And once you suggest certain ideas where a person is submerged in his subconscious mind, then he creates new neurological pathways or connections. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you use the regular therapy by going through, let's say, we'll take the example of people that have post-traumatic stress, right? So they go through that, by talking, they're actually creating a bigger pathway or a bigger connection neurologically in the brain. Whereas if you do it subconsciously, you can actually change or release different things in a faster way and actually create progress immediately. Yeah.
From the neurology perspective, we have access in hypnotherapy to the imagination, to the subconscious mind, and within the hypnotherapy session, we can get people actively doing new behaviors, over and over in their head and practicing doing things, which, like you say, it will create a new neural pathway, like walking over the same piece of grass over and over. The more that you do it, the more that will become a path. So that's how this works. And obviously within hypnotherapy, we have the ability to repeat scenarios and repeat new behaviors and get people to interact with these suggestions in a way that they do then quickly form new habits, new behaviors, which means by default that the old habits and behaviors tend to die off a lot quicker than they normally would.
Right. I mean, it's known, I think, through the 50s or the end of the, beginning of the 60s. They had tests, psychological tests. They ran people. It started in a way for like the Olympic athletes, where they tested and they connected people to the electrodes, and they ran the whole scene of them, let's say, running 100 meters or playing basketball or whatever, and they saw that exactly the same thing that they imagined. So physiologically, it's actually happening.
Yeah, just by thinking about it, you can get benefit. Like thinking about going to the gym, it fires off those neural pathways, and you can get some benefit from doing that without even going to the gym itself. So it's definitely, the power of the mind is expansive and extensive.
Mm-hmm. And so what I mean in hypnotherapy, just to understand a bit better, a person goes into a trance state. And once he goes into that area, we call it like the subconscious mind. There are different levels, alpha waves, beta waves when we're normally speaking, but we usually use alpha, theta, and delta waves when we go into hypnosis. Is that correct?
Well, hypnosis, like you say, it's a trance state. It's a different state of consciousness than just being awake. And like you say, it does rely on different brain waves, pretty much. And that's the only way you can really tell that someone is in hypnosis, is hooking them up to an EEG machine and monitoring their brain waves and seeing where they're at. And as you say, generally the brain waves will fluctuate between alpha and theta. Not so much delta. That's generally a sleep one, but they can get on the border of that. Right. But that's all hypnosis really is. It's just a change of brain waves. So it's something that's completely normal and completely natural. And it's the change of brain waves is something that we do in our normal waking state when we're imagining and daydreaming, or if we get really caught up in something that we're imagining, our brain waves will change to alpha or even to theta. So it's something that we can just naturally do.
Right. And there are a lot of people here in Israel that I see, they use, I mean, if you go through or you go to the hypnosis protocols, they actually use the same protocols, the same deepeners, the same gestures, the same thing that we use in hypnotherapy, and they just don't call it hypnosis. They call it like an elevated state of mind or a deeper state of mind. Yeah. And do you see any difference? I mean, the name hypnosis comes from hypnos, which used to be the god, a Greek god of sleep, right? Mm-hmm. And they thought back in the day, I think it was until the 19th century or 20th century, they thought that a person is asleep while in hypnosis, and that's why they connected it to the god of sleep. So,
although it does look like people are going to, especially if you see like the stage hypnosis where they click their fingers and sleep.
Right.
It looks like they're asleep, but no, they're generally in a highly focused state, and in fact they'll be paying more attention to what's going on around them than they probably normally would, and focusing on what the hypnotist is telling them. So it's definitely not a state of sleep, and it's a highly focused state of attention. And sometimes people kind of drift in and out, and they go off in their imagination thinking about something completely different. What am I going to do tonight when I go home? But then they come back to what the hypnotist is telling them to do. So a highly focused state of attention. Yeah.
Well, what type of applications would you recommend for people to come and see a hypnotist or somebody that works with the subconscious mind?
I just realized I didn't really answer your last question.
Okay.
So I'll go back to that. So with regards to the guys in Israel who are doing it without calling it hypnosis, there's no reason that wouldn't work, because obviously, if they're using the same techniques, a label is a label. People will do something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. That's very similar to some of the things that we do within hypnosis. But the label is different. So it doesn't necessarily matter what the label is that is placed upon these things. So long as you're getting the right using the right techniques, you know, finding out what the client actually wants to do and working towards that goal in whatever way is right for you. Sometimes just by talking to someone, you can generate a state of hypnosis in a conversation, you know, and you can do that without being a hypnotherapist. If you get someone really truly engaged in what it is that you're saying to them, they kind of just glaze over. It's like so focused on what it is that you're saying, you're not doing hypnosis necessarily, or
Right.
you're not meaning to. So there is no label there, but it can still work. So yeah, it can be effective. But obviously, if hypnotherapy is something that you're doing, something that you're looking for, it generally is best to go to someone who is actually a hypnotherapist, who's trained to do hypnotherapy in all aspects of it.
Right, right. And I mean, actually, we go into a state of hypnosis on a daily basis several times a day. You know, like while driving or reading a really good book or actually looking in a beautiful woman's eyes or vice versa. You know, people just go into that state of, it's a state of connection.
Definitely.
That you're absorbed in the relationship or the connection.
Yeah.
I have another question on that, which I think is important. What is, I mean, to be a good therapist, right, in any aspect, I see that like a big part of it is intention. The hypnotist or the therapist must have the intention.
Yeah, definitely. The intention, you know, it is what it says, you know, for yourself to be a good hypnotherapist, you know, you need to intend that what you're doing is going to work. For you to do decent therapy to help someone change, you have to actually want them to change, because they will pick up on it if you don't. So there's a lot of different things, different aspects that go into creating a very good positive hypnotherapy session where people will get good results. And intention is one of the foundation points of that. And you said earlier about what could people use hypnotherapy for?
Yes.
The amount of things that people come to hypnotherapists for help with is mind-boggling. There's so many things, the common ones being kind of smoking and weight loss and anxiety, stress, insomnia, phobias, fears, sports hypnosis, people wanting help improving, you know, their sports or whatever it is that they're doing. Hypnobirthing as well is a massive industry in the UK, the US, and across the world too, using hypnosis techniques in order to have a natural, painless or less pain birth.
Right.
So there are so many different applications that you can use hypnotherapy for, and it's definitely something that is becoming more and more widely accepted and used across the world as information grows and as people are doing hypnotherapy and getting real positive results.
And as you mentioned earlier, actually, the success rate and the amount of times that a person on any given aspect that he would come or she would come and see a hypnotherapist, the success rate is very high. And also it's short normally, unless it's like clinical depression or stuff that's a bit heavier, which could last, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, maybe even 40 sessions, right? But normally, any issue or any goal a person has, a person would come to a hypnotherapist and be on track quite in a matter of, you know, a week or two or three, you know, a couple of sessions.
It can happen, yeah. I mean, generally, most hypnotherapists will see clients between 1 and 4 sessions.
Right.
And again, people change at different speeds. So you might have a session and then you'll notice that you have achieved what you wanted to achieve straight away. Other people will have one session, they'll go away, and it might take a while for all of that information to settle, for them to develop a new way to do things. So it could take a few days or weeks even. But the actual therapy process tends to be a lot shorter in duration, certainly.
Right. And you mentioned weight loss with regards to, you know, a lot of people come to do those types of sessions. And I know you're just coming out with a new book regarding weight loss.
Yes. It's still kind of a secret at this point.
All right.
I'm not going to tell you the name of it, but yes,
Okay.
there is a new book coming out. It's actually going to be coming out this week, next week, which is in May 2018. So if you're watching this after that point, the book is probably already out, and you can probably buy it on Amazon. And there's also a really nice hypnotherapy MP3 that goes along with that too, to reinforce everything that's in the book. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I can't really say much more about it though.
All right, yeah, we'll keep up. We'll keep a link up once we post this video, and you guys can see Rory's new book that's coming out. You already have 2 books, is that correct?
I do. Yeah. Yes. Do you have them?
Yeah, I do, definitely.
It's the Beginner's Guide to Hypnotherapy, which is the blue one, and the Instant Induction and Rapid Hypnosis Guidebook, which is the black and red one. And they're all about how to do hypnotherapy or how to do hypnosis for yourself. That's the hypnotherapy one. And they're written in a very simple way, and pretty much anyone can understand them and start to put to use the techniques, whether for other people or to use on yourself. So definitely, if it's something you're interested in looking into, a good starting point, perhaps.
Yeah. We'll definitely also post 2 books. This is the Beginner's Guide to Hypnotherapy and the Instant Hypnosis Rapid Induction Guidebook. I'll definitely put a link on there. And I'd like to ask you on a personal level, what do you like or love about hypnosis, hypnotherapy? Well, why did you get into this type of business?
I mean, I have always been fairly decent at conversing with people, at talking and communicating with people, and it's very nice to have a set model of things that you can do with your communication in order to help people to improve their lives. And it's something that worked for me initially. Like I said, I stopped smoking using hypnosis, and I used to be super unconfident, and using hypnosis techniques I am now less unconfident and much more confident, as you can probably tell by the fact that we're doing this interview. And that's it for me. I like to help people. I like to use language on a personal level, and yeah, that's where it all kind of lies for me.
Right. Sounds good. And another quick question. I mean, in Israel, to become a hypnotist, you have to go through, you have to have a 2nd degree in psychology, or you're a doctor, a psychiatrist, or a dentist, or they have specialized people that, from the, let's say, interrogation world or, security world. Those are the types of people that would be eligible to study hypnosis in Israel.
Yeah.
And they have like a tight guild. It's only about 750 people in Israel. And do they have such a thing in the UK?
Not that I know of. In the UK, pretty much anyone can learn to be a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist. There are no stringent regulations on it. I know it's different in the USA, and they have different regulations state by state. But over here, anyone can decide to learn to become a hypnotherapist. So we're quite lucky in that respect.
Right. I mean, I studied in the UK. I'm a member of the NGH. I mean, I can practice all over the world. I've done that in New York, and a lot every time I came to London. Actually, I met all kinds of really interesting people, and actually in restaurants, they'd ask me, "What are you doing here?" So I told them, and they were like, "Oh, I don't want to look,"
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. But once they see, I mean, even if you do it on the street, you also have some street hypnosis on your YouTube channel, I noticed.
Yep.
We'll also put that connection in. And people are, they actually, see that it's a good thing, it's a positive thing. And, it's a thing that I think we need to bring more awareness to it, because a lot of people just don't understand how it works.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Would you want to like close up and tell us about the school? You have a really nice venue. I studied in are you still running it in the Royal Horse Guards Hotel?
Yes, yes. All of our training is at the Royal Horse Guards Hotel in London Embankment. And if anyone is interested in learning, like you did, to do hypnotherapy with us, you simply need to go to the HypnoTC website, which is www.hypnotc.com, and it's currently a 10-weekend training course run over a 10-month period, all in London. Lots of practical hands-on experience and homework, as I'm sure you remember. But it's designed for people to become effective, confident practitioners of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, so they can go out and then do that. So do get in touch with us if that's something that you'd like to do.
Yeah, and you also have a shorter. You have like occasionally some weekends that you do. 1 or 2 days for just to get the feel.
Sure. Yeah. There are some free taster days on the HypnoTC website. There are some free hypnotherapy taster days, as well as on my own website, rory-z.com. There are some rapid induction and some stage and street hypnosis days and weekends as well. So it depends on which route you want to take the hypnosis.
Can anybody actually join and do this type of thing? Like if people in Israel would be interested, do they have to like study anything before? Do they have to have a certain background? Or...
We don't suggest that any previous studying is required. We kind of teach from a assuming that you know nothing perspective, but anyone, any pre-reading that people would like to do is absolutely fine. On the HypnoTC website, again, there's a reading list where you can buy various different books from many different hypnosis authors, and they're all, it links through to Amazon, so you can check it out internationally, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Sounds terrific. And hold on a sec. 1 second. Yeah. Sorry about that. So we had a quick. My boy.
So good.
Yeah.
Hello.
Shalom. Okay. He said hello.
Hello.
So I guess we covered, in general, and I hope that people watch this short video. If they have questions, I'm sure we'd be happy to answer them and maybe make, another tailor-made show. And I thank you very much, Rory, for your time and explanations.
Thank you for having me.
And definitely we'll be in contact. And you have a terrific day.
Brilliant. And yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.